What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cinema Trip Reviews. I am your host, Wyatt, and Alex joins me once again. We are talking about the infamous Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974, directed by none other than Tobe Hooper. Now, this was your first time ever watching this movie. That's right, Alex?
Yeah,
That's
obviously,
crazy.
I've grown up. I've seen like clips of it, and probably caught chunks of it on TV here and there. But this is the first time sitting down watching it the whole way through.
That's awesome. That's crazy to me. Like, I know how much you love horror movies and everything, so it's wild to know that you actually, this is the first time I actually saw it the whole way through. Because this is I wouldn't say this is one of the first horror movies I saw, but this is definitely one of the earlier ones that I saw. But man, I mean, anybody hasn't seen the movie or doesn't know too much about it, of course, just based off the name Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you're expecting a bloodbath and just like everybody getting mutilated and everything. And it's really not that type of movie at all. There's barely any gore in it whatsoever. Yeah. And I mean, I remember being a kid and like being kind of intimidated by just the name Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then once you watch it, I mean, of course, it's kind of unnerving and it makes you kind of feel uncomfortable and dirty, but it's not like super duper scary, and there's really no like blood or dismemberment or anything of that nature. So I mean, it's very tame compared to what else was happening in the 70s and then throughout the 80s as far as slashers go. But this was revolutionary at the time. There was no other horror movie like this around. I mean, there was a couple of slashers, but nothing that kind of fit the atmosphere and then the kind of grittiness and rawness of this movie. What were your initial thoughts on it, man?
Well, I mean, just going off what you said, it's why I didn't watch it, because I heard it was unnerving and just like uncomfortable, which maybe it gets worse as these go on, but this one wasn't too bad, like some of it, we'll get to that. There is like, especially one scene where you're like, oh God, but like nothing too bad,
Yeah.
But I was expecting blood. I was expecting just like gore. Now, I knew it was the 70s, so I was like, it's not gonna be crazy, but, I liked it more than I thought it was going to.
Okay. See, I wasn't sure what your opinion on it was going to be. I kind of half expected you not to like it because like it's one of those movies that like if you waited this long to watch it, it's been hyped up so much by all like horror fans and like the horror community. So I mean, it's hard to meet those expectations for a lot of people, because I know that there's a lot of people that watch it for the first time and are like, well, what's the big deal about this movie? Why is everybody really talking about it? But it's more so just like the time period that it came out in, and it's really like Tobe Hooper was trying to make this a PG rated movie. Like he was trying not to use as much blood or any swearing. Like he was purposely trying to make it kind of a lower rating. That way you can get in the theater so everybody could see it. But whenever he like put this out to the MPAA and all that, they tried to give him an X rating. Like they tried to give him an NC-17. And he's like, what do you mean? There's like nothing in this that like warrants an NC-17. So like the producers went and talked to him and they talked him down to an R rating. And he was like, fine, I guess we'll settle with an R.
It deserves an R though. I mean, it's an R movie.
Yeah, I would say so.
You got to respect what this movie did for just horror in general. Like, I respect that. I've always respected that. And I've seen other Texas Chainsaw Massacres, just never like this one,
Yeah,
which
I mean,
I don't know why it started.
It's a complicated history of Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. I mean, I would say like 80% of them are not good whatsoever. I mean, the remake is fine. I enjoy the remake with Jessica Biel. I am not in love with the sequel to this as much as everybody else is.
I've seen the sequel.
It's very zany and goofy. Yeah, Bill Moseley in there is Chop Top. Last time I saw that was when I was way younger, and I just did not like it at all. Because I mean, I was one of those people that was expecting it to be kind of similar to this one, but it's vastly different. Different.
McConaughey one's the first one I saw.
The Next Generation.
Yeah,
see, that one, it's a bad movie, but I enjoy it for the performances because Matthew McConaughey just goes fucking bananas in that movie.
That sticks in my head, man. I remember Matthew McConaughey going crazy, which we kind of get some of that in, like, I can see where it came from in this one. A little more tame.
Some of the sequels they really tried to kind of copy what this one did. They just couldn't do it nearly as well. But I mean, Tobe Hooper, the director of the movie, of course, he did like the Fun House. He did Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, like 10 years after this one. He ended up doing Poltergeist, like working with Steven Spielberg, and then he like did Salem's Lot and everything. And I think he ended up doing some TV as well, like Tales from the Crypt. But you know, he's an acclaimed horror director. This movie does star Marilyn Burns as Sally, Gunnar Hansen as Leatherface, Jim Seidow as the cook, and Edwin Neal as the hitchhiker. And they have a name for him. His name is Nubbins, but like I feel like nobody ever uses that name, so I don't know where it came from. Like it's never said in the movie, I'm pretty sure, so I don't know where that name came from. They at least call Leatherface in the movie at some point. But this movie is just famously known for how hellish it was to film. It was over 100 degrees, and they were filming in just the hot ass Texas weather.
They look hot.
Yeah, everybody's sweating in this movie, but it was apparently hell to shoot in. Gunnar Hansen, because of the dyed clothes that Leatherface was wearing, they couldn't wash them. So for 4 weeks, he was wearing the same set of clothes, and it was just apparently terrible. They smelled terrible. Nobody wanted to be near him during lunch and everything because of how bad it smelled. The dinner scene near the end of the movie, it took 26 hours to film, apparently, and it's only like 6 minutes or so. And they filmed it during the day, and they had to black out the windows. So they're saying in that little like dining room, it was like 126 degrees. They had rotting meat. Everybody was smelly. Like it was terrible. The Marilyn Burns was tied to a chair for those 26 hours, screaming. She was genuinely terrified, she said, throughout the making of the movie. Especially like whenever they had to cut her hand for Grandpa, they actually cut her finger for real in that scene. Yeah, it wasn't fake. And yeah, they put her through hell. I don't know if it was nearly as much hell or maybe equal to what's her name? The lady from The Shining, because Stanley Kubrick put her through fucking hell too. But I don't know if it's nearly as serious as what Marilyn Burns went through. Yeah, she ended up quitting acting at a certain
point. She was like, I'm done with this shit.
Stanley Kubrick put her through hell. But I mean, apparently I was reading like Tobe Hooper, apparently all those years later, like at conventions and stuff, he would run into like Gunnar Hansen or like Marilyn Burns. And like, he was afraid that like they were mad at him still from the shoot because of how much hell he put a lot of people through. And he was one of those people. He wasn't as like meticulous as Stanley Kubrick, where like you need 400 takes. But he was definitely one of those directors. He's like, I want the perfect shot. This is how I want it. Everything. So like he would do multiple takes, and that's why like certain scenes like the dinner scene took 26 hours because he wanted to get it exactly right.
Why would you? That's his job. He's got a vision. He's got to see it through. You know,
exactly.
That's directing.
This movie is also famously, it was partly funded by the mob. With mob ties, and I guess it had some connection with that movie Deep Throat. Like it was like a porno, like the mob funded it as well. So nobody really knows how much money this initially made when it came out because it was all kind of kept secret. It was all under the books and everything. Yeah, nobody knew how much they were like paid all up front and everything for it. So nobody really knew how much this movie grossed overall whenever it eventually came out. It was a huge success. But nobody really knows how much money it made at the end of the day.
Does Hooper have mob ties? Is that like, does he still have mob ties? How did they get to the mob?
I don't think so. I just think they were just trying to get funding, and nobody really wanted to fund this movie at the time because he wasn't a well-known director. I mean, he directed a couple things, but they weren't huge. So, I mean, they were just trying to go out and get as much, like, whoever would give them money to make the movie.
Went to a loan shark or something, maybe?
Possibly, yeah. But whoever they went to had some mob ties, and they ended up, like, laundering money through certain other movies like that porno movie or whatever. It's complicated. It gets real messy, but yeah, I mean, till this day, nobody really knows how much money they actually made off of this movie. John Larroquette, who famously does the narration at the beginning of the movie, like Texas summer use, driving on a road trip or whatever. Yeah, it's very creepy to start off. Apparently, he wasn't even paid money to do that. They gave him a joint, and he was like, "Oh shit, I'll do that." I mean, it's the 70s. They're like, "Here, we'll give you a joint. I'll read this for you, and then you'll be on your way." And apparently, he always tells that story when people ask him about it. Like that's one of his famous stories. And he actually ended up coming back and doing the beginning narration for the last one, the one that was on Netflix that we reviewed last year or the year before. He came back and did the narration for that one too, which was pretty cool. But I mean, the last note I had was just nobody really saw Leatherface as far as the actors and actresses. They wanted to kind of keep him secret. So a lot of the reactions you get from some of these actors and actresses is genuine when they see Leatherface, when they actually get to meet him. Specifically I forget his name, the dude with the glasses and kind of the afro, whenever he goes into the...
Kirk?
No, Kirk's the dude who gets bashed with the mallet. when he walks in the first time. It was the other dude, the dude that was driving the van.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever he goes in and he opens up the freezer and the girl sits up, when Leatherface comes in, that's a genuine reaction and scream from him because he was not expecting that at all. Like he turns around and screams like a girl, dude. It's so hilarious every time. I mean, it's scary when you originally watch it, but when you read the story that like he wasn't expecting it and he was genuinely scared and screaming, it's even funnier every time.
That's like the famous like clip from this movie is that like red like doorway thing.
Yeah, slides that door shut and everything.
I gotta say, when watching it, I thought that was gonna leave a bigger impact on me. I thought there'd be a bigger like thunk when he hit him. I don't know, just it like there's a lot of like hitting things, but there's not like a good noise for it, you know? Like
yeah.
I want to hear like I know this is such a small complaint, but like I want to hear like a thunk, you know, like it's just like and he's like down and I'm like, okay. I feel like the sound audio
sound design, I think that at least like I understand like the hits probably could be like have a little bit more impact. Like maybe it could have made them
but
louder.
the noises
and like some of the music, not even the music, they just have noise going, like the atmospheric noise. Apparently they didn't use any instruments for the soundtrack. Apparently what they used was like the inside of a slaughterhouse, like noises and stuff, and they kind of distorted them. But they purposely did that because they wanted it to have the feeling of like what like animals or cows would hear inside of a slaughterhouse. So it kind of gives you that feeling like you're trapped in a slaughterhouse and you're not where you're supposed to be, and it's just dangerous. But it really works. I mean, this movie every single time it does. I wouldn't say it's necessarily scary. When I was younger, it was certainly scary. But now, like even after I'm done watching it, I feel like I need a shower afterwards. Like this movie makes me feel dirty. It's like one of those movies, like similar to like House of a Thousand Corpses and a couple other ones, where it's like I need a shower after watching this. And there really isn't like any blood or gore or anything like that. It's just like how gross and gritty the house is and these characters, and it's like it's all raw and it feels like you're actually watching everything for real. Like it doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like you're kind of watching a snuff film in a way.
Yeah, I think age hasn't helped it for me there because it just felt to me like I was watching a 70s film, you know?
Okay.
Probably back when you watched a film this in the 70s, it was like I could see that. But to me, it just was like, oh, this is an old movie, so that's why everything looks shitty and grainy like this, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I've heard that. I've heard what you're saying before where like people are like, oh, it's real dingy and dirty. And I get it. And again, there is one or two scenes where I'm like, oh, I get that. But like for most of the movie, I was just like, it's an old film, you know, like it's an old film.
Yeah.
And maybe I just missed the hype on that. Again,
that's one of those things where it's like over all these years of people hyping up and talking about it, it kind of raised your expectations. Yeah. Maybe if it was one of those things you didn't really know much about and you watched, you're like, oh, this is pretty decent.
No, and I again liked the film. Like I know we'll give it. I did like it, but you're right. I didn't like go in like, oh my God, this is great. I was like, okay, this is fine.
It's definitely creative. I love a lot of the cinematography and shots that are in this movie. Especially like even towards the beginning, like when they go pick the hitchhiker up, when it's just that huge faraway shot and just the little tiny van that's pulling over to pick up the hitchhiker. And it's just all the sky blue is just covering most of the screen. And you see like the little van driving. I just love those shots, and a lot of shots that like you can tell that like Sam Raimi kind of took and used in Evil Dead a little bit, like the super up close shots and people's eyeballs and like kind of the twisting effects and stuff.
That the whole dinner scene with the eyeballs and the noise, and that's the one scene where I was like, oh, and props to that actress, is just screaming the entire. They're still talking.
She didn't lose her voice.
She's still yelling like. That scene is so chaotic. I was just like, that's the one scene where I was like, whew, like
every time too. Like even after watching it so many times, like every time it's like sensory overload.
It's sensory. That's exactly what it is. There's like conversations going on. They're yelling at each other. She's screaming. She's pleading. Like I actually like, and you know, there's like this disattachment when you watch horror movies. You know, like especially slasher films, where you kind of want to see these people get slashed, but like. She's one person where I was like, oh man, I feel bad for this.
She deserves to get away at the end of this movie.
Come on, man. Like she made me start feeling bad. I was like, man, shit.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of gonna go through the movie kind of fast because it's not, to be honest, there's not much to it. I mean, there's really not a ton of talking throughout the whole thing. At least it's not much that progresses the story in any way. I mean, the basic gist is just like these, what is it, 4 or 5, I wouldn't even call them teenagers, but kids, I guess. They're going to check on their grandfather's grave because there's been a ton of grave robbings that have been happening. Like you see at the beginning of the movie, like you hear the shovel and everything just digging up stuff. And you have, like, of course, what's famous with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, to like the old like flash bulbs camera, like
I love that noise. Love that noise.
It's so eerie. But then you see like the bodies like up on top of the grave and everything, and you find out they're grave robbers and everything. But they're going to check on the grandfather's grave. Apparently it wasn't one that was robbed. And you kind of have, I wouldn't call him like as much of a crazy Ralph from Friday the 13th or anything, but he's kind of like the Warden of Doom, like that like drunk, like hobo dude that's laying in the grass and everything.
Yeah.
He kind of reminds me of just like the Prophet of Doom, kind of like the crazy Ralph in a way. Just kind of, he doesn't even really talk to the main characters. He's more so talking to the audience as it's happening.
I go to the gas station. I really like the gas station attendant because the whole movie. Well, I just feel like, who's the guy who tells him not to go that way? He's like, don't go there.
That's
like,
that's the cook dude that ends up like part of the family.
I didn't even realize.
And that's what's even crazier, is because he tells them like a lot of people are, protective of their property around here, so you might want to be careful where you go. And
he's kind of telling them go away.
Yeah, he's warning them like, you better be careful around these parts. And they're like, well, our our family owns the house we're going to. And he's like, oh, you do you? And he's like, well, just be careful now. And like, he even tells them like, oh, we don't have any gas. We're still waiting for the gas truck or whatever. And then he keeps telling like them like, oh, those girls don't want to go over there. Like, you don't you don't want to go that way. But I always found it weird. Like you're saying, like he doesn't try to lure them in by any means. He's telling them like, gotta be careful where you're going around these parts. People are very protective of their land. And sure enough, I mean, every time I watch this movie, I think about it as like, yeah, these people are actual psychos or anything, but they're kind of protecting their house. These people are just breaking into their house. And
they do definitely walk right into their house. Why?
Oh, they definitely do.
Why does that person walk right into that guy's house? I would never do that.
No, especially with how like eerie and creepy everything else is around.
Like, nope. The first dude who gets hit in the red room, like he walks straight into those people's houses. Like,
hello,
like get the fuck out of there, dude.
Yeah, and I mean, most of these characters are fine, and of course, like everybody says, everybody has an issue with Franklin because he's such a whiny bitch in this movie. And I mean, he's more annoying than Shelley from Friday the 13th Part 3, which we reviewed on the other review.
I think he's less annoying than Shelley.
Yeah, I find Franklin really annoying, man.
He absolutely is annoying.
Or it's like Shelley, like, yeah, he's annoying with his pranks, but he's kind of entertaining in a way. But he's not nearly like a whiny bitch as Franklin is. And like the part that always just makes me laugh is like whenever he's downstairs, whenever they get to like that little house and everybody's upstairs or like they're going out to swim or whatever. Yeah, he's like mocking them and he's like,
come on, Franklin, it's gonna be a fun trip.
I mean, it's their fault they're kind of going to places that they can't take them and everything, but like,
I totally relate with him though when they're like, she's like, I'm gonna go look for him. He's like, no, let's just stay here, because that would be me, man. I'd be like,
yeah, you're right.
Just stay here.
Blackout. You're not gonna be finding anybody in the dead of night. Like, come on.
I'm good. I'm not going to look for nobody.
Yeah, I mean, you have the other funny scene where he's like pissing in that can on the other side of the road. The truck comes by and like the rocks hit him. He goes down the hill. But there's really not much that's happening other than that. I mean, of course, they're driving along after they go to the cemetery. They pick up the hitchhiker, which is a great scene. And how, like...
tense scene.
It's a tense scene. And the dude that plays the hitchhiker is fantastic. You feel like he's genuinely, like, crazed. Like, he's not all there. I mean, he's talking about, like, how they make head cheese at the slaughterhouse and everything.
Not threatening yet, which I love. He's not like threatening. He's just like, you can tell he's unhinged. He's unhinged, like maybe shouldn't have picked him up.
Yeah. And I'm like just reading into the story and everything, like it's like the police were very thankful for this movie because it dropped the crime rate around like the Texas area and everything, because people were not picking up hitchhikers after this movie as much.
I wouldn't either.
People were scared to pick up hitchhikers. Yeah. And I mean, watch this, you easily see why. I mean, he just starts out kind of just weird, talking about the slaughterhouse and everything. They're even talking about like, I how they even kill the animals. Like they don't do it with a sledgehammer anymore. They do it like the gun, air
And
gun or whatever.
he misses
like,
it.
That gun's no good. You got to use the hammer.
You gotta use the hammer.
And he like takes Franklin's picture. He's like, you could pay me now. He's like,
Again, unhinged.
Not even that good of a picture, man. And he like, oh, you got a knife. Let me see it here. And he like cuts his fucking palm open and everything. He's like, all right, this dude needs to get out of here.
Well, they said don't pick him up. Like, it's strange to me that the girl who wanted to pick him up, like, she's like, no, let's pick him up. You know, we'll help him. And
like,
then they're all
he's weird looking.
They all are sitting like completely across from him. You think
he's
she
like
was
by
the one who was
himself
like,
in the back.
He's like by himself in the back, like, and I know it's like a camera angle thing, but I'm like, man, maybe make him feel a little more welcome than all of you staring at him like creeped in the back.
I mean, they don't even kick him out when he cuts himself, though. They're like, oh, that's just weird. They kick him out once he burns the picture and then just takes his razor and slices Franklin's arm. Then it's time to let him out. I would have kicked this dude out as soon as he started cutting himself. Like, all right, dude, you got to go.
Yeah, man, this is strange. I probably would have kicked him out when he started talking about bashing things heads in with the fucking hammer.
Like, this is a little weird.
We don't vibe. We don't gel. You got to get out this head.
And like, what was this dude's plan too? Because he was like, my brother makes the best head cheese or whatever. You guys should come hang out. Like, you can have dinner with us or whatever. Like, what was their plan to lure these kids in? And they were all like, the old cook, Leatherface, and him were just going to kill all 5 of these kids at one time together. Is that what they were planning to do?
Yeah, that was totally what they were planning. He was luring them in.
It's just weird because like the hitchhiker's trying to lure him away, but the other dude, the cook, is like trying to tell him that not to go around looking for trouble or anything. It's like,
which makes sense later.
Like part of the same family, but they're trying to do the same thing. I mean, even when they're around the dinner table, the cook's like, I take no pleasure in killing.
Yeah, he doesn't like to kill him part. He's like, I'm good. I'm out of it.
How twisted he could be, though, eventually, whenever he runs into Sally and he like fucking puts the bag over her head and starts smacking her with the broom handle, pushing her with it and everything. Like, he's still twisted. So it was like, weird he was trying to kind of turn them away whenever later in the movie he's trying to like lure them in. You know,
he seems to like Grandpa a lot. There seems to be like something they don't explore. Well, it seems to be like he does this for Grandpa, is how I took it. Like, he doesn't really care about Leatherface and the hitchhiker guy. Yeah, you know, he does this for Grandpa. So I haven't watched all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know if they ever dive into that. Like,
I don't think so. I mean, it's been forever since I've seen that second one, but like the third one, I don't think he even has like a Grandpa or anything, and like it's not even the same characters, right? The only constant through these movies is Leatherface. Pretty much. Yeah.
Well, like I said, I know they do the remakes and stuff like that.
Yeah, they really changed the dynamic in the remakes too. Like, it's actually a bigger family and everything.
Oh, much bigger. Yeah. It gets like, I remember it being a big family.
Yeah. And Arlie Ermey in those movies is terrifying as well. He's so intense. But yeah, I mean, they pick up the hitchhiker. They end up fucking kicking his ass out, and I like how he's just like writing on their van with like his blood, and he's like mocking them as they're driving away, like spitting at him and everything.
He knows.
Then it just kind of settles down for a bit. You know, the kids get to that house, they're looking around, and then of course 2 of them got to go out looking for gas. I mean, they go out. Swimming, they go swimming, and then they go around, they find the farm, and then they're like, oh, maybe they have some gas to give us so we can get out of here. Yeah, and of course, you know, just as a slasher is, they end up, you know, exploring a little too far. They come across the house. You have that great famous shot of just like her walking up in like those tiny red shorts, like that shot behind the that swing, and you just see the house, and it's a very low angle. It's fucking great.
It's a good shot, good cinematography.
Yeah, but of course, Kurt goes in first, and this is probably one of the most famous scenes of the movie. Yeah, he goes in there looking around and opens up that door, and fucking Leatherface standing there and just smacks his ass with that hammer. And it's kind of very realistic. Like, he hits him and he just starts convulsing on the floor. Blood's pouring out of his head and everything. But what really drives it home, is when he pulls him in and then just slams that door, and just that musical note that hits when that door hits, it's just so dark and ominous. Like, all right, it's going to get a little rough from here on out. Yeah,
it's like, going down.
It's going down at this point. And then, like, of course, his girlfriend goes in. She ends up finding like the teeth. He gives her the teeth on the porch. Like, at that first point, like when you see teeth on the porch, it's time to go.
That's it. Go.
Yeah, and that was before he even went in the house. Like, he just dropped that tooth in her hand, and she's like, "Ew, what the hell is that?" It's like, if you're finding teeth on a porch, like, no, you shouldn't be here.
Get out.
Like, get out of here. And especially
again,
she goes in and finds like that room just filled with furniture
Dead
made
things.
of bones.
Yeah, like dead things and things
Yeah.
hanging that are skeletons, and just like,
Yeah,
get the fuck out of
lampshades
there.
made of like skin, and like that whole like sofa is just made of a human skeleton and everything.
Yeah.
Gnarly, dude. And you always wonder, because I mean they were saying like a lot of the like most of those bones were like from animals, like actual real bones from animals and shit. But like as far as the human remains, they don't know if they were real or not, because Poltergeist, they use real bodies in Poltergeist. Like
That's crazy.
The skeletons you see at the end of Poltergeist, those are real and everything. And like
That's so disrespectful.
Yeah, so I mean, you're wondering. A lot of people are wondering if a lot of these human remains or skeletons in this were actually real too. Because I mean, if they were able to do that in Poltergeist, a huge budget movie under Steven Spielberg, what were they doing in this one?
Yeah, well, and nobody was watching them in the fucking Texas heat.
Exactly, out in the middle of nowhere or whatever. So my guess is they were probably using real bones and remains or whatever, which is makes it even more twisted.
That scene when it's digging up the grave in the beginning, that's actually Hooper digging up graves to get his props.
He's like, we got to do it, man. We got to do it for real.
Film it.
He actually dug up those bodies and set them up on the tombstone in the beginning. He just kept telling everybody, no, it's fake. There was just really good practical effects. We got a really good effects team in here.
Yeah.
Just make sure to put those bodies back when we're done with them. But yeah, she goes in there and yeah, she trips and falls immediately. And it's just, man, that room is so creepy every time. It's like she's just sitting there looking around. It's like, you need to get out like ASAP. But as soon as she walks out that room, that door slides open and fucking he chases her out. And it's another great shot of him, just like she barely makes it. She gets right outside and he grabs her and just pulls her right back in.
Pulls her right in.
Yeah,
that's a good.
Puts her on the meat hook, which like.
And
it's all up to the viewer's imagination, because there's no blood and really any of this. He just kind of puts her up on the meat hook, and then he starts carving up her boyfriend in front of her.
Yep.
You don't see any blood or anything in this. He's just kind of miming sawing at him and everything.
Yeah.
But it's genuinely a creepy ass scene. And then like you could tell Leatherface, like obviously he's not all there. He couldn't believe that people were just breaking into his house, because as soon as he handles them, like he goes over to that window and he's just like, stop coming into my house. Like, I don't want to kill you people. I'm afraid. I'm scared. I don't know any better.
This is what they've told me to do.
Yeah, I was raised like this. Like, you can't fully blame Leatherface because he's fucking raised by these crazy ass people. But I mean, he's crazy as shit too. I mean, he's wearing people's faces and everything.
Yeah, I mean, he's got his own issues.
Yeah. And then of course you have the other dude that comes in. He goes looking for him. Everybody just finds the same house. And like I mentioned, the other dude comes in. He opens up that freezer, and she's still alive in there. Like they play like that weird like screeching sound every time like there's supposed to be some scary moment and stuff. Yeah, she just sits right up, and that's where like Leatherface comes in and scares the shit out of this dude before he bashes him with the hammer again. They're just dropping like flies at this point, and then it's that night. Shelley and Franklin are by themselves, and that's where like she's like, "We gotta go looking for him." Franklin's like, "No, we should probably fucking stay here." And it's like Shelley wants to go looking for him, and then she has to push Franklin around, her brother, in his wheelchair. It was like, last thing you want to do is go looking in the woods you don't know at night. Yeah. But you have to push your brother around in this fucking wheelchair through the woods, which would be hell. Like, I can't imagine pushing a wheelchair with someone in it through the woods. Like, that'd be a pain in the ass. But you get probably the only jump scare, if you want to call it that, of the movie. He's like, "Oh, I heard something." Probably
the goriest scene, too.
Yeah, because it actually, like, I never really noticed it when I was, like, really younger, because you're watching it on VHS and DVD and the quality's not great. But on Blu-ray, you can actually see the blood spatter whenever he's fucking cutting with that chainsaw. But yeah, he turns that light on. He's like, "I hear something." As soon as he turns the light on, Leatherface is just fucking right there and saws him with the chainsaw.
He starts this chainsaw too quick.
I always thought that too. Like, you'd think you would hear the chainsaw, right? Just kind of bump, 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 bump. But like, nope, right into him.
Whoa.
But yeah,
the chainsaw never gives him any issues.
Decent bit of blood like splattering on him while he's doing that. And like, that was something I never really noticed when I was younger, just because of the quality of the transfer of the movie on like VHS or DVD. But it's high quality nowadays, Blu-ray and 4K and shit.
I was going to bring this up when we were reviewing Friday the 13th, Part 3. I could see specks on the camera from my Blu-ray. Like, I could see like dirt specks on the camera. I thought it was my TV, and I was like, I think that's the camera. Like, because it would go away, and I was like, I didn't notice that in this movie, but that's what we're talking about here is like the quality of these older films is just getting so much better, you know?
Yeah, and I like that kind of shit though. It
Oh
kind
yeah,
of gives it
I'm down for it.
authenticity to it and everything. But I mean, that's from this point on, it's largely a back and forth of just running because like Leatherface just chases her to the house. She runs upstairs, and that's where she finds like Grandpa and Grandma. I guess Grandma's actually dead. She's just a
She's
rotting
a
corpse.
skeleton. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
in
like
the attic. And Leatherface runs up there, and I love whenever she runs in, she shuts the door, he saws through the door, and then like she's on the stairs and starts screaming, and it kind of like throws him off. Like he just doesn't know what to do at first, and then he decides to chase her. But she like
I
jumps
like
out the top story of the house.
she jumps out a couple windows in this
Yeah.
movie. It's her go-to move, man. She's Jason Voorhees incarnate. She's coming through a window, whether you like it or not.
And like in horror movies in general, they make jumping through windows, I feel like, much easier than it actually would be. I feel like it's not that easy to jump through a window.
I've never done it, but wouldn't imagine it's super easy.
I wouldn't either. I feel like you would like now you would just run and jump and you're gonna bounce off that window before anything, before it breaks. Like
Agreed,
they need
yeah.
to put that in a horror movie. Like someone going to jump out a window and it doesn't break. Like just bounce off of it into the killer or whatever.
Killer trips over and then falls through it.
And the killer falls through it. We need to write that. That is a perfect scene.
There we go.
Hilarious.
Scary Movie 8.
Yeah. I'm surprised that hasn't been done before. She jumps out the window, and then he doesn't really know what to do, so he goes around and chases her, and it's just another chase scene, man, of just her just looking it, and he's chasing her through the woods and everything, just sawing through everything. And apparently she got cut the fuck up running through these woods. Like, most of the blood on her shirt and everything is her actual blood, they were saying, because of all these thorns and branches that are just scratching at her and everything, which is pretty wild. But I mean, that's 70s rough filmmaking,
that's old cinema, man. Yeah,
that's old cinema. They didn't give a fuck about these actors at that point.
Now we're about to get into like what I consider like the meat of the film.
Yeah.
But before we get there, like this really is, and you kind of alluded at it. This is literally like 40 minutes just watching these people like you know, and then they kill everybody so damn quick. It's within like 10 minutes of this movie, everybody except this final girl is dead. Everybody, you know, it's like from the time the first guy dies to the last guy dies is like a 10-minute like gap, maybe a little more, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's so quick. Where usually movies like this, like, you know, you get your opening kill, you stand it out, and it keeps going. Yeah, but like
you have some time in between those kills of these characters doing something where it's like they don't really have much to do because they're out in the middle of nowhere, you know.
They drop like flies, and we spend so it is like a 40-minute chunk, a 10-minute chunk. And then we get another like 30-minute chunk here of just like following this girl that we're about to get into. But this is a big chunk of the movie.
But like you say, like the third act of this movie probably has the most depth out of all of it. So you're actually interacting with all these characters and everything that
you start learning kind of about the family, what they're doing.
Exactly.
Like, this is the best part of the film for sure.
Yeah, easily. I would say. Like I would say the best part, is like from that first kill up until the end, because like it does. It's a little bit of a slog. I mean, you have the hitchhiker scene, which is great, but right after that, it's kind of a slog because these characters aren't really doing anything. They're going to that house, and there's really no substance because what their dialogue is just them just talking about nonsense. It doesn't have really anything to do with the plot of the story or anything like that. I mean, this movie's like maybe it's like an hour and a half, a little under. I watched it yesterday, and it felt like a half hour. Like, it went by super quick yesterday when I rewatched it.
And you don't fall in love with any of these characters, even the final girl. Like,
you
know nothing about them. Yeah, you feel bad for her. Franklin's annoying. He's like the biggest personality, but everybody else, you know, is just a nothing character.
Yeah,
really.
they don't have any depth. They're just they're just there to be just killed off.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway,
the only thing you really know about the characters is just Franklin and Sally are brother and sister, and that they went to see their grandfather's grave, and that's it.
I missed that. I didn't even realize they were brother and sister.
Yeah,
I missed that. Now, obviously, when I started watching this movie, I was actually watching it at my kids' football practice on my phone.
Such a sadness that you think you've seen a film on your fucking telephone. Get real.
Which I have a nice fold phone, so it's a nice screen, but like I finished it in my house on my TV though, because then I
watched the best part outside because like everything is daytime in like the first half like of the movie.
Yeah.
That second half is like all dark. You wouldn't have been able to see shit on your phone.
I literally, from the point Franklin dies on, watched on my TV. So like I got
Okay.
like this second half on my TV. Like I actually watched it on my, because I own the movie. Never
Yeah.
watched it, but you know me, I'm a fucking sucker. I own it.
It's one of those movies I feel like you have to own, though. I mean, we'll get to that though eventually.
Also, great deal. This is always on a great deal on Steelbook. If anybody's interested,
I have
it's
the Steelbook
always like
one
$15.
too.
Yep, that's the exact copy I own. It's like $15 almost always.
Yep.
So it's like a good Amazon cart. Like just throw it in there. Like fuck it, you know. Like I want to own this movie.
She runs across the gas station again. She runs into the cook. He's like, "Oh, you gotta calm down. Don't worry. We'll figure out help." She's like, "I need a phone. Like, gotta call for help." And anytime that you're in a place and you're like, "All right, I gotta call somebody. I need help or whatever," and they tell you they don't have a phone, you gotta worry. You gotta get out of there, because if they're telling you don't have a phone, they're lying. I don't care. Like, you're a business and you don't have a phone. Like,
yeah, you're a business.
You're a business. You don't have a phone. Like, she should have got out of there. And the other thing is, I feel like she could have overpowered this dude. Maybe not. Like, obviously she went through some shit, like running through the woods, cut up. She just jumped out of a window. Maybe she was a little weak.
But her adrenaline.
I feel like she could have overpowered this old dude that was trying to like smack her with that broomstick and everything.
I do like this. There's a fake jump scare here. I like that fake jump scare where like she talks to me. He's like, "I'm gonna go get my truck," and then like the camera just like focuses on the door, and you're just ready. Yeah. You're just ready for like Leatherface or somebody to pop out, and just the truck backs up.
The truck backs up.
But and it makes like
makes a point of like going in and zooming in on the meat in the cooker and everything.
Yep. You're ready for it.
Yeah, you're ready for it. But like, you know that they're cannibals or whatever, but like you're expecting to see like a hand or like a torso. You never see any of that.
The sausages could just be sausage. They look kind of good, to be honest with you. I know it's hinted that it's human, but like,
yeah,
it just looks like a sausage.
But yeah, he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll help you out. I'll go. You know, like we're gonna, we'll help you out." And then he goes, pulls his truck up, and you're thinking he's gonna help her, and he just comes in with like the sack and holding the broomstick, and you're like, "Oh God, no!" He's like, "Don't worry now. Don't get scared." He's like, that dude is easily probably one of the creepiest people. And like, he barely does anything, but he's so creepy too.
I think he's the best character out of the whole. He's, again, most depth. He doesn't want to do it. You know, he seems to be kind of wish-washy. But
he's still twisted because like, as he knocks her out and puts her in the truck. And then like while he's driving there, he's like poking at her and laughing and shit while she's screaming. And he's like, he does get some enjoyment out of this. He just doesn't get enjoyment from the killing aspect of it.
Yeah. He doesn't like the blood.
He likes torturing, I guess.
Yeah.
And of course cooking him. Because of course in the sequel he wins like one of the chili cook-off contests that has human meat in it. But yeah, of course, takes her back to the fucking house, and they run into the hitchhiker. He's driving. He's like, "What are you doing? You should have been home already." He like gets in the back of the truck and everything. And this is probably one of the funniest fucking parts of the movie. He's like, "Look what your brother did to the damn door. He saw through the fucking door.
You ruined the door."
And the best part, and like Leatherface at this point, he's in his old woman costume. At this point, he's dressed up like an old lady. He's cooking dinner and everything. And like the cook goes and talks to him, and he's yelling at him like, "You see any of those kids? Did you take care of them?" And like Leatherface,
let them get away.
He can't even talk. He's like, and he's like, "You didn't let them get away." You're like, "No." And he's like, "All right, fine." And then he sits there thinking, he's like, "But you still ruined the damn door."
He just wanted to abuse him.
Exactly. Like he's looking for an excuse to yell and abuse this dude. I don't know. That's one of the funniest parts of the movie. I mean, even Tobe Hooper called this movie like a black comedy in a way. And it's like, only a certain couple scenes I can't see as a black comedy any other times.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Yeah, I don't see it either. Only then like maybe the Franklin at the beginning running down the hill or just being a fucking goofball. And of course the scene with the door. Because this scene from here on out is it's hard to watch for most people, I feel. I mean, even a hitchhiker, he recognized. He's like, "Oh, I remember you." He's like, "You said you didn't have time." He's like, "I thought you were in a hurry." Whenever she's tired and like maybe we should let Grandpa have her. And they go up and they get Grandpa, and that's where he calls him Leatherface. He's like, "Leatherface, I need help." And they had like carry Grandpa down, and Grandpa's the best killer there ever was, and everything. And
Grandpa's makeup's the worst in the movie. He looks
apparently they had to do that guy's like all his scenes in one day. Because that's like the heat mixed on top of like how long it took to put him in like the makeup and everything. They filmed all of his scenes in one day. Yeah.
You can like see it moving.
Yeah. It's not great, but man, it's so unnerving. Like when they cut her finger, which I actually cut her finger, and then they like put it in his mouth and he's like sucking on it, and like you don't have like the loud noises from the hits when he's killing people, but man, that sucking noise is so loud, and it's like, ugh, gross. And like it zooms out, and he's like doing weird movements with his body while like, he's really enjoying it. And it's like, oh man, it's so weird. And like I like Leather, they carry him down, they put him down. Leatherface like pats him on the head and gives him a kiss on the head and everything. Yeah. It's like,
they love their grandpa.
They love their grandpa. When he's sucking on her finger, that was too much. She passes out, and of course she wakes up at the dinner table. Leatherface is in his like has makeup on, his mask and everything, and he's in a suit. He's in his dinner time, his best dress suit. This is probably one of the most tense and uncomfortable scenes of the movie. It's a sensory overload. They're howling like animals at the dinner table around her and everything.
It's zooming into like her eyeball,
super close eyeball, looking around and everything.
The music's going. It's a lot.
Camera's just zooming in and zooming out really quick. Yep. And I forgot to mention like that scene whenever. I don't remember if it's when they drive up to the house or whenever she's like running in or out, but like they zoom like super quick out, super far where you see the house and everything. And it's like, I don't know, it's just shots like that. It kind of makes you a little uncomfortable and everything. Like you get the feeling like, okay, you're secluded. You're trapped in the middle of nowhere in this house with these psychos now. You can't do anything. But yeah, it's just super uncomfortable. It's like, I'll do anything. Like, of course, like how people are. It's like, I'll do anything. Just let me go. Whatever. He's like, you can stop this. He's like, no, he can't. He's just a cook. He doesn't tell us what to
do. Start fighting.
They start fighting amongst themselves. Like, don't you shut up, you.
This is where the meat comes. This is what I was saying. Like, this is where the dynamic comes in. You start understanding like the family. The hitchhiker's there to lure him. The cook's just there to do that. The hitchhiker will kill, but Leatherface is really the killer here. Like, and they all do it for Grandpa.
They all do it for Grandpa. And they're fighting amongst each other. Leatherface doesn't really feel like, but he's still super creepy because he gets up and walks like super close and he like puts his face into the camera and everything. Like, man, I could not like every time just watching it, you feel like you're in her shoes, like you're tied to that chair with her. And it's just, man, they do a great job of kind of giving you that feeling of being there.
It's rough, and it's even rougher when they are asking for Grandpa to kill her. And they bring her over, and just like that's when I was really just like, I was like, oh my god, I feel so bad for this.
They keep giving him the hammer, and he keeps dropping it in the bucket. He even hits her in the head a couple times. That's why she's like bleeding.
Yeah.
He's like, "What, Grandpa kill?" And of course, like she picks him and is able to just to get away. And of course, she jumps out that fucking window.
Another window.
Another window. And it's daytime now, so they've been up all night preparing all this shit. The hitchhiker's just running behind her, just slashing at her with that razor blade he had, just cutting her back all to hell. She has blood running down her face because of the hammer hitting her in the head. And runs out in the middle of the road, and the truck just comes by and just flattens the fucking hitchhiker, dude. Just destroys him. Leatherface is already coming out with the chainsaw and everything. The trucker doesn't like. I feel like that trucker definitely dies because last time you see him, he's just running away from Leatherface.
I think he just ran. I think
he just keeps running.
Fuck this bitch.
But Leatherface is like chasing them. They climb into the truck. Leatherface is just fucking stalling all over the door. Yeah, then runs around.
Got away. I feel like he could have just started driving. I mean, I know it takes a while for a semi truck to get going, but like, I I'd have went.
You should have. Yeah, he starts chasing them. He turns around and like throws a wrench at Leatherface's head, hits him in the head, falls in his chainsaw, cuts his legs. Like, ah! He's like, that's like the most you hear out of Leatherface, other than like his little whines and squeals and stuff. He's like screaming and everything, and it's like a great effect too. It looks like that, like his meat's actually coming out of his leg, and he like, of course, you see him squeeze it, and that's where like the blood comes out. Like you can tell he squeezes like a blood pack in his pants or something.
Yeah,
that truck comes along, fucking spins around. Sally gets in just the nick of time, mind you.
Yeah, because everybody's slow in this last scene.
Everybody's slow. I mean, even when Leatherface is chasing her through the woods and everything, he could have had her like 3 different times.
Dude, even when the hitchhiker's like slicing, like get her. You're so close.
You're toying.
You're so close to the road, like a public road apparently, because 2 cars come by within like 2 minutes. So it's got to be a decently busy road.
It's funny because you don't see any other cars throughout the rest of this movie while they're driving in that van.
Yeah, never. But 2 cars come by. Like, just grab her and get her back into the fucking house, So he meanders to this truck, but she gets away.
Yeah, and I mean, she starts laughing hysterically and everything.
Which is
and
a great,
it's such a
good
great ending to the movie. It's just Leatherface, of course, doing his little chainsaw dance out in the middle of and it just
Pistol.
cuts. It just cuts in the middle of that scene, and I love it because he's just like in mid spin with that chainsaw when it just cuts to the credits and everything.
Yeah.
And he's still out there. Like, you don't have any resolution of like,
Just got away.
the final girl ended up killing the killer, and that was the end of the movie or anything. No, like Leatherface and this cook are still alive, and they're probably going to be continuing to do what they're doing unless she goes to the cops. And of course, that's where it goes in a couple of the sequels, which aren't very great. But I think overall, I mean, it is a very, very effective movie. It does slow down for the most part. There's not a lot happening through like that first.
The length helps it though, because it is a quick watch. You know, it doesn't linger too long on anything. Like it gets going.
Yeah, but it's like compared to like, and it's hard to compare it to any like the other slashers, like Friday the 13th or whatever. But it's like at least you have some kind of character dynamic, or the characters are kind of doing something in between those scenes where it's a little entertaining. Where it's like these people are just walking around. There's really not much. There's really no talking amongst themselves other than like, oh, we got to go find gas, and then they just stumble upon a house or anything. There's really not much dynamic between the characters really at all throughout the middle of the movie before it just goes all to hell, and then all it is from there on out is just pretty much just screaming and noises and sensory
uncomfortableness,
and uncomfortableness, and definitely more so the ending of the movie with like the dinner scene and everything. That's really where you feel just dirty and grimy. You feel like you're in that 120-degree heat in that room with them and everything. Like it's definitely uncomfortable, and it does its job. And to have a movie from 74 still able to kind of give you those feelings, it definitely is telling.
This movie though ruined, I know we reviewed the Netflix one, which I didn't love even there, but this movie ruins it for me because A, it's way better, but B, it sets her up like a Laurie Strode character, but she doesn't do anything. Like, why is she getting this set up like she's coming? Like, who fucking all she did was run and scream. And listen, I get it. I would do the same fucking thing, but like Laurie fought Michael, you know, like, so they're trying to like mimic that where they're like, oh, Laurie's coming back, but Laurie has the fight with him, you know, like even if the first one, like she fights him, she defeats him. All this chick does is run until she gets away.
Yeah, and she doesn't really fight anybody at all.
No,
if anything, that truck driver fought Leatherface more than her.
Exactly. Like, so it's weird that in like Texas Chainsaw, the newest one, that they're just like, oh, she's the new, she's coming back, and I'm just like, so
that's just like the whole
what's she gonna do?
Legacy character requel thing that happens in Hollywood now. Since you know Halloween 2018, everybody's trying to do that shit.
But I was more into it when I didn't see this movie because I was like, oh yeah, definitely bring back the final girl, bring back the Sarah Connors, bring back the Laurie Strode. Like I'm cool with all that. That's fine.
Then when you see it, it's like this makes no sense. Why this lady would do this at all? Yeah, and it's the same thing. Like I know you didn't see it yet, but with the new Exorcist movie, I did a review on. Go check that out. They brought Ellen Burstyn back for no reason whatsoever, other than she was just in the original movie, and they butcher her character literally and figuratively. Butcher her character, like.
I've never seen.
Makes no sense what she would be doing. Like at this point in time, her character makes no sense what she's doing compared to where she was at the end of the original movie. Like they just brought her back just to bring her back.
Like why is she here?
Why are we doing all of it? It's like you can make a sequel connected to the original without bringing any of these characters back. Like you don't have to. Like.
Or you feed it more. Like she can come back as a legacy character of this person, but it's got to be more than just like oh, there she is, you know, like
don't like in the latest Texas Chainsaw. Don't make her like he tried to kill me all those years ago. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna kill him. Like there was no reason to do that. Like they could have had her like in a home or like still disturbed. Like they go to interview her or something, and she's like, then she recounts her story.
They just made her.
Like she's still traumatized. Like 50 years later from everything. Like. She didn't spend her life turning like they just ripped off the Halloween 2018.
They totally ripped off Halloween 2018 at that point, you know, because I was going into this expecting her to be some kind of like she fights back, she gets her shit together. Nope, never, not once. She runs the entire movie.
She just tries to get away. That's all she's trying to do.
Which, again, I would too, but like, fuck that.
Yeah, but I mean, this movie is when you look at it from a distance, it is very bare bones, and I mean. No pun intended. It's very bare bones. But because like nowadays, when you like if you try to remake, I mean, even look at the remake now of Texas Chainsaw, they always try to go do like something extra with it. They try to explore the house more. They have
like
the people in the house more. They try to explore the family dynamic more. They really try to go into depth with a lot of these things more, when I wouldn't say you necessarily need to. I think this movie works how it is because of some of the mystery behind it. Yeah, you get a look into some of these characters, but not like a deep dive into like what makes them tick or anything. You get some of that family dynamic between like the cook and Leatherface and the hitchhiker, but like you don't really know why they're like that or anything.
They just
you don't,
are.
Yeah, you just are. You only spend a certain amount of time with them, and of course they're bickering and fighting with each other, and they treat Leatherface like shit. You don't really get much more than that, and you really only see like just the downstairs of the house and like the attic and upstairs. You don't really explore the house too much. There's not much to it, and I think that kind of helps with the mystery of the movie in a way. And like you're not given all the answers to everything. Like I feel like a lot of movies now try to do.
You hit it right smack down on the head. This is a grungy, dirty, quick movie. I don't think that's what this movie was trying to do. Now, I like when they give answers, but this doesn't need it. But I would say if the sequels started not giving answers, you'd have been like, all right, this is just the first one again. I'm not saying any of these sequels are good. I've never really watched a ton of them.
Yeah.
But I get like trying to do a little bit more,
Yeah.
You can't
like most of the sequels, like I know a couple of them, like they have the scenes where Leatherface takes someone down into his lair in the basement and have him hanging up, and of course he's like doing his thing, he's cutting someone up, or he's like taking their face off and he's like sewing his own thing. Like you see a little bit more depth to Leatherface. They try to show you like what his routine is and everything.
What tick is, yeah.
What his tick, yeah, everything. Like he's making his masks or whatever. And this one, he just seems like a dude that doesn't know what's going on. People are just running into his house. He doesn't know what to do. He fucking takes them out, and then like you find out he's just like, I don't know, he's just not all right. He's just kind of mentally unstable. He can't even really talk. He's raised by these crazy people. That's all you really need to know. They don't really show what his like routine is or anything. You barely even see him throughout a majority of the movie, other when he's just chasing people. You're not hanging out with the killers. You're more so hanging out with the people themselves. And I think that's what kind of works. Whereas like a lot of the other Texas Chainsaw movies, they try to focus on Leatherface more. Whereas like I don't really think you need to focus on Leatherface or the family as much. I don't know.
I agree.
That's why like a lot of the sequels don't really work, because they don't really do what made the original great.
I'd be excited to watch them though. Like now seeing the original, I'd be excited to go into it and watch them. Well,
yeah. I mean, now we're doing the review for the first one here. We can eventually come back to the second, third, and then of course Matthew McConaughey. Get that motherfucker!
Get that bitch! Yeah!
But yeah, man, I really like this movie. I really love it. It's definitely one of my personal favorite horror movies of all time. It definitely belongs in one of the top horror movies of all time. I can understand why somebody nowadays would look back at it for his first time watch and like doesn't see what the fuss is all about because of everything that's out there now. Like you have Terrifier 2 and all this other shit that goes way beyond what any of these movies could do at that time period. Everybody is kind of desensitized as far as horror goes nowadays, where this movie definitely looks really tame compared to everything else out there. But I think it is just as effective as anything that comes out now. And that really just kind of tells you how great of a movie this is, being made in 1974 and how great of a director Tobe Hooper was with his cinematography and everything. And it's going to stand a test of time.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm one of those people, I don't see the hubbub. I do appreciate what this movie did for horror, and B, like, I know who Leatherface is. I know what the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is. So like, I get like the cultural impact it made, and that's cool. And the movie was better than I thought it was going to be, but not, I don't know, that's so oxymoron, but it like wasn't like this like big, like, oh my God, this movie's crazy.
I know what you mean.
But like,
yeah,
I did enjoy it. Like, I don't know when I would go back and rewatch it. Like, let's put it this way. Out of all the Texas Chainsaw Massacres I've seen, I would rewatch this one. I would go back. I would show this to people. Where the other ones, I did like them. They were fine. But I don't know if I'm ever going to go back and rewatch the Netflix one. Like, it was one and done. I'm kind of done. I would go back and watch this one. And it's so quick. It's such a quick movie. It's effective. It doesn't waste a lot of time, other than the beginning's slow. but like once it gets going, it keeps going.
Yeah.
Just boom, 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 and it goes the whole way through. So I liked it.
Yeah, it's
I'm not
very
saying
well
I didn't like it.
paced.
It's not my top favorite. It's not my top 10 movies of all time, horror movies of all time, but I liked it.
Yeah. As far as a buy it, rent or miss it, what would you say here, Alex?
It's a little skewed because it's such a classic. It's a buy it for me because it's such a classic. You know, it's one of those movies where like, if you're a horror fan, if you're any kind of like cinema fan, like this is a movie you should own. Like this is a classic horror movie that people will want to watch, if you know, and that's why you buy movies, because you want people to look at your shelf and be like, hey, like there it is. Like, yeah, I own that. Of course I own that. So
Yeah,
it's a buy it for me. Low end buy it though.
okay. Yeah, I would highly say go out and buy this one if you don't own it already. I mean, I owned a couple different versions of it at one point. Like I had a VHS, I had a DVD of it, and then of course got the Steelbook Blu-ray. This is one that I'm always going to have in my collection. But like you said, this is the one that I come back to. If I come back to any Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, like this is the one I'm going to rewatch, if any of them. I will eventually go back and like check out like the remake every now and then, because I would say like the second best one is probably the remake for me. But yeah, some of the other ones I can't even tell you the last time I watched any of those other sequels, man, other than the one that we reviewed that came out last year or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I would highly recommend adding this to your collection if you haven't already. And if you haven't seen the movie, definitely. Man, what are you waiting for? Go out and watch it, man. It's pretty much everywhere. Most streaming services have Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I'm pretty sure.
It's on Peacock.
Yeah, it's on Peacock. I'm sure it's on Amazon. But yeah, I highly recommend Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think it definitely still holds up. It has a couple slower parts because of just the characters. There's not much to them. But man, I mean, that the dinner scene in the third act alone, it makes it well worth the watch, because of, like that's horror encapsulated in this movie, is just being trapped in that room with these three fucking weirdos. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I highly recommend going out and watch it. Any other notes here, Alex, on the movie?
Hey man, I love getting on this show every time. I love that we watch movies that I haven't seen. Do you know how long Texas Chainsaw Massacre has been on like my list of movies to watch? So I appreciate I appreciate you having me, and it just like kicks me in the ass. Like, hey, go watch that movie, Alex. You know, like so I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you having me, and I enjoy watching these movies I haven't seen.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Have to get you on the show here going forward a lot more. Just have to let me know what movies you're trying to review, because we are winding down on our, this should be the last review of our Halloween Spooktacular 2023. All the horror movies we've reviewed over the month. Definitely go back and check out our latest reviews. We will be doing a Halloween Spooktacular 2023 live stream on October 27th, the Friday. I'm not sure if you will be here or not, Alex. I'm not sure if I asked you.
Might stop by. You did ask me. It's my wife's birthday, so I'll try to fit it in.
You might be there. I know Vernon will be hopping on. We'll pretty much be just, we'll talk about some of the Halloween franchise update news with like what's going on with the latest Halloween movie. We are planning on doing like a small review of some sort. It's not going to be like an hour-long review or anything by any means, but we're kind of going to do like kind of a smaller movie, maybe do a review of something. And just, talk about like Halloween memories, maybe rank some candies. Like we were talking about candy last night, Alex, like maybe ranking some candies. I don't know, just bullshit,
Can I dress up?
Halloween, talk about everything spooky. I'm thinking about it. You can dress up if you'd like. I'm thinking about it, since it'll be for Halloween. But I already have the live stream set up. Everybody can go out, set a reminder on YouTube already. It's on there. So make sure to tune in October 27th. We haven't figured out a time yet, but I'm planning on probably be at like 9 o'clock at night, 9:30, maybe 10 or something. It'll be a little later so everybody can kind of tune in. But yeah, make sure to check out for that. Anything else from here, Alex?
Nah, guys, appreciate watching. Enjoy your Halloween.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Go check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Cinema Trip Reviews. Also, wherever you get your podcast, stop in and leave us a good review there as well. And also, I haven't been pushing it often. Go check out our merch at TeePublic. It's right down here in the description. You can buy one of these Cinema Trip Reviews Halloween 78 t-shirts. Got the nice little pumpkin here from Halloween, Cinema Trip Reviews, just in time for Halloween and everything. I know you got a Cinema Trip Review shirt and everything. I got a decent amount of shirts on there. You can go out and check out with different designs and everything. I have an Exorcist shirt I made on there. You can go check out. I haven't been pushing the store nearly as much, but hey, go check it out. Maybe you'll find something you like. You can find, we have mugs, cups, sweatshirts, t-shirts, whatever you can really think of, we got it. So make sure to go check that out, and also make sure to like, share, and subscribe. and we will see everybody next week.